Hey guys, I'm going to start doing a series where I'm asking you for micro markets or niches that I should do an ornament design in, and then I'm going to do it live. No prep work or anything, just so that you can see the process that we follow at Inner Circle Prints. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I want to mention that I started memberships on my channel. So if you're interested, I'm calling it the Design Collective. It's $4.99 a month. And what it will get you is early access to videos, members only polls, and monthly feedback for your designs, your shop if you want me to, and your listing photos. And I will create those as normal videos and upload them to the channel. So if you're interested, there will be a link in the description. All right, let's jump in. So here are some of the comments. Maybe a funny coworker ornament, a nurse and teacher ornament, a new home niche that doesn't have line art or watercolor, teacher nurse, baptism, sports, baby's first Christmas, wedding planner, company team or company logo, and then can you do some that are not ornaments? Yes, I will definitely be getting into other designs that are not ornaments. And I'm also going to be making videos on how you can utilize Kittle to create ornament designs as well. But for this one, we're going to be using Canva and Creative Fabrica today. So let's start with the Funny Coworker Ornament. Let's do that one first. I'm going to come over here to my HPP list. I'm going to find one on my list. I'm going to open up a couple and see, or just hover over them. So this one has 1,100 sales on my HPP list. A job made us coworkers, but our sarcasm and inappropriate conversations made us friends. Best emotional support coworker ever. Coworkers are like Christmas lights. They hang together. Half of them don't work. Some aren't very bright, but together they shine. That's hilarious. Okay, let's go over to my sprint list and see how many I kept on here. So as you see, I kept a few different ones on my list, and they're differentiated by the phrase that's on them. So the SEO is probably going to be somewhat similar. Like with this one, coworkers are like Christmas lights. That's actually in the title here. We would have to do our research in the Etsy search bar and see if we would use that in our title or not. But I'm keeping a couple different phrases that I'm going to design for. Let's just go to incognito and see what's showing up on page 1 for Funny Coworker Ornament. All right, so we have this one on my HPP list. I would totally hang out with you even if we weren't getting paid. Coworkers are like Christmas lights. They hang together. Half of them don't work. Some aren't very bright, but together they shine. I'm just going to talk through what my brain's thinking about. So this one right here, Merry Christmas to the coworker who makes Mondays less painful. This would be so much more valuable if it had personalization on it. So if it has like a to and a from or like who it's going to. So up here, Rachel, Merry Christmas to, and then it says the phrase. So I'm seeing a few different phrases that seem to be selling the most. There's this sarcasm one right here. The general, my favorite coworker gave me this ornament. This one that's on our list, I would totally hang out with you even if we weren't getting paid. And then the Christmas lights one. Those are the main ones in my mind. So what we could do is to add value to the market. If we're just putting up one coworker ornament, we could have all 4 of those designs inside of it offered as variations and just put out one funny coworker ornament with the SEO. But the problem with that is that I think people are going to specifically be looking for some of these phrases. So what I might do is make one individually for each of these based on what was on my HPP list and what I had initially planned out. And then I would consider inside of each of those to put the other designs just because it is in the same micro market. And once they get into it, let's say that one of those listings takes off out of the other ones, they would be able to choose from design A, B, C, or D. And it would, in theory, increase my conversion rate because they would be shopping on my listing. So let's go ahead and compare to my HPP list again. It was, I would totally hang out with you even if we were not getting paid. Okay, let's write these down. Emotional support coworker ever, 176. This one's still funny. If it was only sentimental, I would probably leave it out, but I think it's still funny. Best emotional support coworker ever. And a reminder, so if I end up with 4 listings with the 4 different coworker designs, I'm going to try to SEO them differently as much as possible. There is going to be some overlap, of course. And with the method that we follow with other product categories like tumblers or shirts, ideally you're only launching one per micro market. So the fact that I'm doing 4 for coworkers is somewhat not part of the method, but with ornaments, the method is a bit different. It's kind of hard, it's harder to follow with ornaments because instead of having 300 individual micro markets, there's micro markets that are more stacked. So like you have 5 or 10 engaged ornaments in your shop or 5 or 10 married ornaments in your shop, just because there's higher search volume inside of those categories. And I see the coworker one as a subset of that. All right, so the next step that we're going to do is we're going to look at the micro market in incognito. Make sure you're in incognito. And we're going to identify the value points, which is just what does my ornament have to have in order to bring value to this market? What is a non-negotiable? And then we're going to look at the overused KDAs. And with the KDAs, I'm talking about this, the key design attributes. If you need to, you can go back and watch that video, but we take our HPP list and we extract the key design attributes. It's pretty much all of these art attributes that make up the ornament space. And we're identifying the overused ones inside of this micro market. And then we're going to identify the underused ones that would make sense because they're not all going to make sense or work for this micro market. And then we're going to craft our plan for our ornament. Okay, let's back over here to our page 1. We're sticking on page 1 because this is where sellers are ranking for Funny Coworker Ornament. This is where we want to be. So the first thing that I noticed, I would totally hang out with you even if we were not getting paid. That is right there, it's at the top, it's ranking high. I'm not seeing it happen anywhere else on page 1. If I click on it, let's see if that phrase itself is in the SEO. No, it's not. And we know that they are ranking for Funny Coworker Ornament. Whatever you type up here, when they show up, they are ranking for this term. So automatically in my mind, I'm thinking we could add value by having this personalized and just adding the names to it, even if we did it in a typewritten font. So if you zoom out on the method that we follow, it is adding value and filling gaps in the market. But there's this other side to it that you always have to keep in mind. If something is on your HPP list and it's only happening one time on page 1, like this example right here, why not be the second to it, do it slightly differently, add more value to it, but it's working for them. We don't want to copy what they're doing. We want to add more value. So I would add personalization. I may decide to add some other Christmas elements that they don't have. But this is prime example of I could just redo this in a better way and make a lot of sales. Now, if you were scrolling down here and you saw this phrase and there were like 5 of them that were typewritten just like this, that's when you want to avoid it. You don't want to be the 6th person to the market. Back to identifying the overall value of a Funny Coworker Ornament. It needs to have a funny saying on it. Some of them have personalization, and I think ours definitely needs to, but it's maybe only 50% that do. For this one, I would say the only value point is that it has to have that funny phrase on it. So let's write that. Value point, we will add personalization. For instance, if you're looking at like a grandparent ornament and you go in there and it has the kid's name, the grandparent names, the year, and it says our first Christmas as grandparents, the value points, the things that you have to include on your ornament would be, it needs to say our first Christmas as grandparents. It needs to have the kid's name and the grandparent's name with the year. Those would be the value points that you're not going to get rid of or change up. But for this one, it's just the funny phrase. Okay, overused KDAs. Now this is where you're going to start memorizing these as you start doing it more. But if you feel like you're blanking, just go over here and jog your memory. Personalization, rainbows, stars, watercolor icons, heart icons, line art, minimal text, watercolor scenes, Christmas trees, penguins and hedgehogs, wreaths, Santa hats, faded background, holiday letters, watercolor wildflowers, stars or hanging ornaments, full background, stained glass, AI 3D or carving, Christmas light string, paw prints for pets, 3 to 4 icons, color splash behind subject, gold, red, or green text, photo background. Okay, now your KDAs may be slightly different from mine because mine are pulled directly from the research from my HPP list. Your list of research If you need, you can go back and watch the Building Your HPP List video. You're extracting data from however many shops. I think I had 23 or 25. And then you're going through 200 or 300 of them to figure out what are the key design attributes that are happening again and again. And then you create this vision board that helps you see it visually, and it will allow you to identify these KDAs and then easily see the gaps in the market. Okay, so what are they doing again and again? Overused KDAs. I'm just going to call out what I'm seeing first, not necessarily them being overused. So this would be Christmas lights, and usually we don't look at the wooden ones, we would only look at the sublimated ones. But this is the phrase that we're using, and it's ranked as number 1. So it's got a heart glyph, it's got Christmas lights. This one's got red and green text, Christmas lights. I probably could have had Christmas icons as a KDA. This is the minimal text KDA with a heart glyph. Retro color change letters, that one's not on my list. This one's not on my list either, but it's kind of like a throwback retro design. I'm ignoring the ads. These are the Christmas letters that are on my list. Christmas lights again, and kind of a wreath. Christmas trees, stars or snow, minimal with a heart glyph, hanging stars, red text and green text. I would call this a wreath, but it would just be like a half wreath. Those are ads. These are the stars and the heart glyph, minimal. So I am seeing the minimal happen multiple times. So we're probably going to avoid that. The wreath is happening a few times. Christmas lights, if we're going to use that phrase, we probably have to have Christmas lights on it. So although it's happening multiple times, we're going to have to do that in our own way. Here's the minimal again. Goose might be its own KDA. If you ever find a new KDA that's happening in the market and you see it again and again, just go back and add it onto your KDA vision board, because it may not be represented in the shops that you pulled the data from, but you can always add on to that. Christmas trees, stars. I feel like this would also be a KDA where it has the text that, this is like an accent text, it stands out, it's bolder, it's not all the same font. That in itself seems like a KDA. We got some more dumpsters, line art, stars and hearts, minimal text. This is not watercolor. By and large, the ornament space has a lot of watercolor happening inside of it. This is vector art. There's another wreath. Okay, so what I saw a lot of was the wreaths, the minimal text, and then this kind of accent. But I like that. I think that it helps. If you have a longer phrase that you're writing, it helps the viewer or the customer read through it easier. So it makes sense to utilize that. Only saw that hanging ornaments one time, Christmas trees a couple times. Only saw the Christmas letters one time, the wreaths a couple times. It's going to be the minimal one that we're avoiding. Minimal text, and then possibly the wreaths. So those were happening a few different times. Underused KDA. So this is where you go through yours and you think, okay, what makes sense? Definitely personalization is being underused because it's only being used for like 50% of them. Rainbows. This is where you ask yourself, does it make sense for me to have a rainbow on a coworker ornament? I don't think so. I think we can make it more Christmassy. This is more for teachers or maybe baptism or godparents, something to do with babies. Stars and snowflakes. I did see a lot of stars happening, but it's such a little accent that you add to it. We could do stars in our own way if we wanted to. Personalization, stars. Watercolor icons. Heart icons were happening a lot. Watercolor icons, I didn't see a ton of that. Yeah, it's mostly just the text. And then sometimes there's a few little graphics. This would be a watercolor icon with Santa. That's a vector. These little guys. Yeah, so not a whole lot of watercolor icons actually. Heart icons. We'll say that's being overused. But sometimes, what does it hurt for you to use a heart? Because it's not the centerpiece of why they're purchasing the item. So I'm going to put that over here on overused. But if I decide that I want to use it as well, I'm open to that. Line art, I don't think that's a great one for this micro market. Minimal text, we're avoiding that. Watercolor scenes. We're going to have so much text going on that I don't think this is going to work out. Christmas trees, we were seeing that a few different times. Penguins and hedgehogs, we could use that, but this is more text-based. So let's see what'll work best with a lot of text. Wreaths, Saw that a lot. Santa hats, that's not being done at all. But what would we put the Santa hat on unless we have a watercolor icon? We'll leave that one. We're not going to use a photo for this one. Holiday letters, I don't think it makes sense for this one. Watercolor wildflowers, we could, but since it's kind of like a sarcastic, funny ornament, I don't really think it's going to vibe with it very well. Stars or ornaments hanging, we saw that one time, but if it's only happening 1 or 2 times, we could definitely utilize it. Full background color or watercolor, that could be an option. It's just always tricky depending on how you're setting up your mock-ups, because if you're going to do a full background, you have to make sure that the frames that you have on your ornaments are spot on with that hole looking right, or you're using a smart object. Stained glass doesn't make sense for this since it's fully text. Not this one either. Christmas light string, yeah, we're gonna be using that for that one design. Paw prints, not about pets. 3 to 4 icons. And this is where you can look at the examples that you have on your vision board and see if it would make sense. It could, like we could have the phrase up top and then we could have icons under it, little Christmas icons. So let's put that one. 3 to 4, and then I'm gonna just copy and paste. If I have ideas for the direction I wanna go in, I will just copy and paste them over here. I also like the way that they're doing the text like this, where it's line by line, changing up the font. I think it could work well for the longer phrases. Color splash, not really necessary for this. Gold, red, and green text, that was being done some, but if we wanted to, we could utilize that. And then photo background, which we're not going to be using. Okay, so here are different phrases. This is where I have to decide, am I just gonna put up one listing that has all of these inside of it? Or am I going to put up one for each and then have the variation options inside of it? All right, so let's start with this one. I would totally hang out with you even if we weren't getting paid. So I have a couple options. I could do it just like this, but add personalization. But since I'm noticing that the minimal is happening a lot on this page, I'm actually going to avoid it. I'm still going to do this phrase, but I'm going to try to do it in a different way. So I'm adding value with a different KDA plus the personalization, and I have the phrase that people are buying a lot. All right, I'm going to do that one first. So let's get all of this other text off of here. This template is from Inner Circle Prints. You would go to the catalog, to the ornament, and then go to number 2, and there will be a link right there where you can click on it and it will lead you to this template. And with the template, the dashed line is the edge of the ornament, so you want to make sure that all of your text is not touching the gray. It's inside, it's avoiding the hole. The outside gray is the bleed area. So if you have a full background image, don't just pull it to right here. Have it extend so that there's some space for them to work with when it comes to printing, because they're actually printing the artwork on a piece of paper, manually placing it on the ornament and taping it and then sublimating it. Okay, so we know we're gonna have personalization. Then you have to ask yourself, do you want who it's going to? Do you want their name up here and then who it's from down here? I think we definitely need Love Olivia or Love Kate down here. I'm not sure if we need their name up here. Let's go back here and see what they're doing for the ones that are personalized. So this has both of their names. This one's just from Love Amy. Yeah, I'm leaning towards just who it's from. And honestly, my main reason is because when you have who it's going to and who it's coming from, sometimes your customers will mix that up in the personalization box. So I'm just gonna go with Love Olivia at the bottom. All right, I'm avoiding the minimal, so how could I do this text? I like the idea of utilizing the gold, green, and red text. Let's go back and look at that one. And these are the main two that are inspiring me, so I'm gonna copy both of those and put them over here as well as ideas. So I'm gonna take that one, gold, green, and red text, and do that. And then I have to decide, do I want to do the stars or ornaments hanging, or do I want to do the 3 to 4 icons? I think it needs to be more of a cheeky font. Like this font right here is kind of put together and elevated. This is a funny phrase, so it needs to be more like a handwritten vibe. So let's go with the 3 to 4 icons and see what we can come up with. 3 to 4 icons. And then I'm definitely going to do the different fonts per line, which could be a KDA in itself. Like I mentioned, I may end up coming back over here and adding that since I'm seeing it again and again. I know it seems like that took me forever, but honestly, as you Work your way through this. Definitely start by writing it out. But once you have done 25, it might be easy for you to just go to the micro market, and in your head you can identify, okay, this is the value point, this is what's being overused, and then you can just come over here to your vision board and look at it and think, okay, what could I utilize? What's being underused? And then just write out your plan. So as you continue to do this, it'll become simpler for you. All right, we're gonna do two versions. Let's do the one that is just like this, but with personalization. Because even though the minimal font is being done again and again, it's only being done one time with this phrase. Over here on my KDA vision board, what I did is I went down from the top of my HPP list and I started recreating font combinations that were at the top of the list. So I know they're proven font combinations that I can then pull from. So I like this typewriter font more so than this one, just because it looks a little bit more like distressed, like an actual typewriter. So I'm gonna paste that here and then I'm gonna type out what it says. And I do like that they have less letter spacing, so we're gonna decrease our letter spacing, increase our line spacing a bit, make it bigger, and then we're going to be adding personalization. I'm going to make that a bit smaller than the actual text on the ornament. And so even though I'm going with the minimal text like they did, I feel like it's missing something. So if I go back over here to what's being overused and underused, I think that I could do some stars or hanging ornaments just to add something else to it, or maybe some stars around it. So let's try the hanging ornaments. Let's go over here to elements and type in ornament doodle. I'm going to do doodle just because this font is kind of distressed, so I think that it would go well together. I'm going to go to graphics. This is kind of what I'm looking for here. And then when I click on it, it gives me some recommendations and I can click on that and get other things that are similar. I'm avoiding this because you see how that outside line is so uniform? That's what I'm not going for. That one's got a little bit of variation on the outline. I usually just drag over a lot and then I choose from what I want and get rid of everything else. I like that one, so I'm gonna go to see all under that one and see if there's some other similar stuff. I could have like a hanging candy cane, that could count. There's a similar one. This one's too perfect. Then we'll add this one and I'll add this one. Yeah, these all look similar to me. You want to make sure whatever graphics you're using look like they're made by the same artist. So now I need a line and I'm going to place these. Make sure that this is 90 degrees and I want it thinner. I'm going to click on the lines up here. It's already at 0 stroke. So let's just try to make it smaller. It's not getting any smaller, so I'm going to have to find a different line option here. And this one is allowing me to alter. So what I could do to make them longer, I like that. I like how thin that is. I'm just going to duplicate it and put it up here. And then I'm going to group it. And then put that right on top in the middle of that ornament. Okay, that looks good to me. I'm having it go past the gray because I want it to look like it's coming in from the top, actually hanging down like an ornament. That's the only reason why I'm extending it, so I know it will get cut off. All right, I think one of the circular ones will be good to go next. I want this one to hang a bit lower. And let's say that I want it to be that size, but it's not as thick as this one. What I could do is go to edit, shadows, outline, and then decrease that size. It adds some thickness to it. So I'm gonna make it like 5, just make it a bit thicker. Okay guys, I stopped recording because my daughters came home and then I thought I was recording everything, but it was not recording my video. It was only recording my audio. So I'm just gonna go over what I ended up with the designs and talk you through it. But big picture, remember what we were doing here is we have a design, the minimal design that was already happening in the micro market, but it was only happening once with this phrase. And we are essentially adding our own touch to it with the hanging ornaments from my KDA vision board. So I left off making this one thicker and then I put the candy cane up here. I was trying to make it look balanced in an unbalanced way. So I ended up with these hanging ornaments around it. And remember, once you create an asset like this, I know it takes some time, but you can then select it and copy it and then come over here to your vision board and place it so that you can use it in the future. Like these stars I made, these other stars I made. And then when there's a gap in the market and it makes sense for me to use this certain element, I can come and grab it from over here. And so later it'll make us more efficient with our other designs. I decided to go ahead and add the heart because without it, it looked blank there. I tried out a filled in heart. I tried this one and it didn't look quite right to me. Usually if I do a filled in heart, I'll make it a bit smaller so it's not as in your face. But since we have all of this line art going on, I decided to stick with this one. So this is one way that I could do this. I could recreate what was happening in the market because this phrase was only being done one time, but it was ranked third on the page. Add my own elements to it, or even if I were to only use the text like this and then add the personalization, I think the personalization alone would be enough to add value so that I can stand apart from the keepsake ornament. I think it was keepsake. But with the hanging ornaments, I'm adding even more value there. Now, the other direction that I could take with it was my plan originally, which is filling gaps in the market and adding value. So my plan was add personalization, possibly try the gold, green, or red text, try the 3 to 4 icons, and try out the different fonts per line. What I ran into, I noticed, is that they're using different fonts per line in a way to emphasize the larger text. So here it's employee and ornament. Here it's our friendship and it's a million. But for this phrase, I would totally hang out with you even if we weren't getting paid. It kind of all blends together. There's no one line that I really want to stand out. So for that reason, I would probably, if I use this where it's alternating, I'm probably going to make them pretty similar in terms of sizing. And then I was trying to decide between would I use just this Buffalo font, would I use this Oakland font, or would I combine the two? I think that we need a playful font. I had these over here on my KDA vision board. So remember, when you're working with your vision board, at the outset, take some time to set up fonts that you can then pick from. I don't even think this is enough. I think I should keep going through it and possibly coming up with like 10 or 20 more font combinations, but I just pulled them from over here. And then I had to decide on my 4 icons. So I went over here to Elements and I typed in Christmas icon doodle. I started with that and I went to graphics and I came across a gingerbread man, which I thought was a good idea. So I went ahead and typed in gingerbread man doodle and I found this one. It's not watercolor, but it doesn't have to be. Plus on my HPP list with the 3 to 4 icons, if I zoom in on it, they're not all watercolor. This top right one is, but these and this, they're not. So I went with this gingerbread man because it looks playful and fun. I right clicked on it to see what it was titled. So I went to the ... and the info. Cute cartoon gingerbread man. And then here it says illustration. So I typed in Christmas illustration and I found the cookie. And it kind of hits 2 with 1 because it's a Christmas tree, but it's also a sugar cookie. I wanted it to have the outline like the gingerbread man, so I went to edit and shadow and outline just so that they both look similar, tilted it a bit. I decided on a stocking once I was looking at these. I found this one. It originally was not that pink color. That's the same as the gingerbread man bow tie. So if you're on Chrome, I think that when you go to the color picker, it's going to give you a eyedropper tool. For me, I'm on Safari, and for some reason in Safari it does not allow you to have the eyedropper tool, which with the eyedropper tool you could just select that color. But so what I do is I'll either go to photo colors, see all, and see if it's in here that I can choose from. If it's not, I'll then go to elements and I will just add a circle right next to the color I'm trying to mimic. I'll put it right over top and then I will manually mess with the color until it looks like the color that's under it and it kind of fades into it. And then when I get it, I will just copy the hex code and put it into wherever I'm trying to take it. And originally also, here, let's get rid of this. This one had these reindeer on it, which are really cute, but they seemed a little bit too perfect, too detailed in comparison to this doodle vibe that I was going for. So I showed you how to just take a shape, here it was a square, and place it over it and then group it just to get rid of it. I could then come in here and add some stripes or polka dots if I wanted to. I did not do that yet. It didn't have this, and so I went and found a different stocking, and then I cropped it up. I added that outline too, so it would be uniform over here under shadows, and then I placed it behind and changed the color. And then I decided on the last one being a candy cane, and I added the outline to that as well. So those are my 4 icons. And just like with the hanging ornaments, this is going to become a set of 4 icons that I can then use whenever I deploy this 3 to 4 icons again. So I will copy and paste it into my vision board. I primarily use Canva elements like this and just alter them. But then I also use Creative Fabrica, and I've been using ChatGPT as well to create graphics that I cannot find inside of Canva and Creative. I decided to stick with the alternating text, so I would totally hang out with you even if we weren't getting paid. And then it's got the name down here. Usually with the customization, I'll make the text a bit smaller than the main phrase up here. So let's get rid of this and see if this is matching with our plan. Personalization, gold, green, red text. I did try alternating it, green, red, and it didn't quite look right. I didn't love the green either, so I'm just gonna go with the black. But I still feel like it's missing something. Since I have used these before, I'm just gonna copy and paste this in for these stars and see what it looks like. See if it adds an element. Because when I identified what's being overused, it was minimal text, wreaths, and heart icons. It wasn't the stars. So this is another way that I could add, and even if it was the stars, it's probably not this kind of star. I had some ornaments last year that I put these stars on and they sold really well. And so if that happens to you and you find a graphic that is selling well for you, just keep it in some kind of catalog or library that you can then utilize later when it makes sense. All right, I'm gonna ungroup these and then place them manually around. And if they needed to be thicker, then I could then go in and add the shadow like I did for the outline. So I want them to look somewhat random. I don't want them to be straight aligned across. And I think that's nice. I think maybe the icons need to be larger. Let's compare it to what's going on over here on this ornament. Yeah, that really fills that space quite a bit. So maybe I could move this up and then make the icons larger. Make sure they're centered, and then work with my little stars. I really like that. Let's see if I have a mock-up over here. We can throw this on just to glance at it. We're gonna copy it and come over here, paste it, group it, decrease it. I think without the stars, it just looked a little bit blank on the edges. I think it's great. So there's 2 examples for you. One where it's only happening once in the market. We take it and we make it our own. And then another one where we're totally redoing it in order to add value. I think I'm going to continue doing these videos for design just to walk you through the process. So feel free to comment down below with some other micro markets that you're interested in me trying out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.